Welcome to the City of Detroit's Black History Month celebration, as curated by the Office of Arts, Culture, and Entrepreneurship and Detroit Media. Please join us here on Channel 22 at 7 p.m. each weeknight and on the city's YouTube page and the Detroit Ace page on Facebook to watch special programs, see amazing performances, and learn about Detroit's powerful Black history.
Hello, I'm Oliver Ragsdale Jr., president of the Carr Center, and we are very excited to be launching the Carr Center Presents, a series of programs being broadcast in collaboration with the City of Detroit Cable Channel 22. We launch our series with a very special program as part of the Carr Center celebration of Black History Month. We present A Poet's Poet, the legacy of Naomi Long Madgett. Naomi Long Madgett was a gifted poet, publisher, educator, and one of Detroit's literary legends. She was Detroit's poet laureate, and in commemoration of her importance to our city, we present this very special evening of remembrance, performance, and poetry.
What I have done with my life is only what I was supposed to do. The Bible says, "To whom much is given, much is required." And I have been richly blessed. I believe the purpose of my life is to serve, to make a positive difference in someone's life, to redirect someone who is headed in the wrong direction, to be a good role model, to inspire someone to lead a more meaningful life. One hymn that has special meaning for me begins, "If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living will not be in vain." And I don't want my life to be in vain. I have tried to serve others in all of my 3 related careers as poet, teacher, and publisher-editor. I hope that at least a few of my poems will continue to have meaning for someone long after I am gone. Occasionally, I still run into former students, many of whom tell me how I influenced their lives in significant ways. That is all the reward I need. Of the more than 90 books that I have published, I'm proudest of the anthology I edited, Adam of Ife, Black Women in Praise of Black Men, in which 55 Black women poets contributed positive poems about ordinary Black men whose names never appear in the paper as criminals. This book needed to be published, and no one else saw fit to do it. It's nice to have money, but money without good works is meaningless and was never my goal. When I was teaching, I never associated my paycheck with my work. I would have worked just as hard if I had never gotten paid. Since good poetry doesn't sell, for the 43 years that I operated Lotus Press virtually alone, I never paid myself a penny. and I often used my own money to publish other people's poetry. It was truly a labor of love, and I have no regrets. Langston Hughes was the first poet to recognize the words of the blues as a legitimate black art form. Following in his footsteps, I wrote Monday Morning Blues. And this, of course, has the form and the rhythm of the blues. All night my bed was rocky, all night nobody by my side. My bed was cold and rocky, all night no good man by my side. The radiator sputtered, the furnace gave a groan and died. I woke up dreaming Friday, but Monday dragged me out of bed. Yes, woke up dreaming Friday, Monday dragged me out of bed. Was looking for a paycheck, mailman brought me bills instead. Well, no one comes to see me, no one ever telephones. Nobody but misfortune visits me or telephones. Wish I could find me something as lucky as a black cat's bones. You may not see me smiling, still you'll never hear me cry. Seldom see me smiling, never gonna hear me cry. But I do a lot of laughing, 'cause I'm too damn proud to die. My daughter, has had a lifelong love affair with Brazil. She tells me that it was my fault because I took her to see Black Orpheus when she was in junior high school. And she has spent a lot of time there and lived there at one time. And so on one of her birthdays, I wrote this poem called At Midday. Now, I seldom read this poem because I don't know that I'm correctly pronouncing some of the words that are in Portuguese. But I think you can probably tell what they mean from the context in which they're written. A berimbau is a string instrument that is often found in Brazil. The pretos velhos are the African ancestor spirits. Yansan and Iemanjá are goddesses of wind and storm and of the sea. So this is a birthday wish for Jill. Woman to woman now, we tell our beads on the worn rosary of years, together in the same slant of light. No longer clay and potter, we are what we have made each other. Your mark indelibly on me as mine on you. And so at midday, I wish you a taste of cururu and yucca fruit, sound of agogo bells at carnival, your fingers touch on a berimbau, and a silver balangandon hung with amulets. May the pretos velhos endow you with their wisdom. Yansan clear your path of storm and rain, and Iemanjá protect and guide you as you sail forever toward Brazilian shores.
I'm Rochelle Riley, Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Detroit. The surest, artificial, but well-accepted sign of respect for a person of note is to have their obituary to be published in the New York Times. I read this from the obituary published for Naomi Long Madgett. Naomi Long Madgett was 17 when her first book of poetry was published, and just 26 when her work appeared in an anthology co-edited by Langston Hughes, an early mentor, that covered 200 years of Black poetry, a new name among the greats. Her elegant, exacting, and lyrical poems, which invited comparisons to Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson, addressed a breadth of themes: social justice, romantic love, women's histories, religious devotion, and the craft of poetry itself. Yet she was almost as well known as a publisher and editor of poetry, an accidental career that began in her Detroit basement when she couldn't find the right press for her fourth book and decided to put it out herself. Lotus Press, her imprint, would go on to present, often for the first time, the work of Black writers like Herbert Woodward Martin, Dolores Kendrick, James A. Emanuel, and Toy Derricott. Despite its literary prestige, Lotus Press stayed in Miss Madgett's basement, and for decades she ran it mostly by herself. In its first year, she invented an editorial assistant, named her Connie Withers, a nod to her middle name Cornelia and her first married name Witherspoon, to give the imprint corporate heft. Miss Madgett, who had been the Poet Laureate of Detroit since 2001, died on November 5th at her home in West Bloomfield, Michigan. She was 97 years old. And here's what she attained: the genius and grace and elegance that became her hallmark in just 9 lines. Woman with Flower by Naomi Long Madgett. I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such watchful nurturing may do it harm. Let the soil rest from so much digging and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaf's inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone.
I'm going to read a poem that took me 70 years to write about my mother. My father was a minister, and he was always in the public eye. My mother was a stay-at-home mom doing all of the drudgery that women did without modern conveniences during the Depression, and she was always tired. So I didn't want to be like her. I wanted to be like my father. It took me a long time to realize how much she really, really meant to me. This is called Reluctant Light. Mother, I didn't mean to slight you, but it wasn't you that I adored. You hid your energy in shadows, and I was dazzled by the sun. I idolized the one whose voice soared to prophetic heights, whose words rejuvenated epics of the ages. Some fine June Sundays, slender and magnificent in morning coat, he would electrify the pulpit with eloquent pronouncements of doom and glory so divine, the very gates of heaven seemed to part, bathing the atmosphere in crystal light. Seeking his favor, I rehearsed raising my hand like his in benediction, earning the childhood name of preacher, shortened in time to preet. You gave us daily sustenance, but there was never a choir's fanfare or the soul beat of the mighty to grant applause. You baked the bread for which we seldom thanked you, canned pears for winter, and mended depression-weary clothes, scrubbing sheets on a washboard, humming hymns to lift your sagging spirit, and cultivating beauty in endless flower pots. The summer when he toured the streets of ancient Palestine and Rome, you consoled yourself by painting pictures of the Appian Way, using the kitchen table for an easel. You coached me with my homework, rejoiced in my small triumphs, and prepared me to confront the enemy, tapping your umbrella against my 5th grade teacher's desk to punctuate your firm demand for justice. I didn't recognize your subtle power that led me through blind, airless caves, your quiet elegance that taught me dignity. Nor could I know the wind that bore him high into the sunlight emanated from your breath. I didn't want your journey, rebelled against your sober ways. But I have walked through my own shadows and, like you, transcended glitter. I have learned that I am source and substance of a different kind of light. Now when they say I look like you and tell me that I have deepened to your wisdom, softened to your easy grace, I claim my place with honor in that court of dusky queens whose strength and beauty invented sons that others only borrow. And Mother, I am glad to be your child.
A Poet's Poet, celebrating the legacy of Naomi Long Madgett, July 5th, 1923 to November 5th, 2020. Naomi was laid to rest at Detroit Elmwood Cemetery, where the city's most famous are buried: mayors, founding fathers, and even poets. Dudley Randall is buried here, and the view from Naomi's gravesite atop a hill slope is highlighted with a river flowing through the middle of the park. It is not a usual overcast November day, but it is uncharacteristically warm and sunny, elegant and peaceful. I can imagine conversations between ghosts, the old colonizers arguing with Mayor Coleman Young, and contemporary Black poets supplying elegant retorts. The funeral at Plymouth United Church of Christ, where Naomi served as historian and was a member of the Renaissance Choir, was a somber occasion, but few tears appeared, perhaps because Naomi determined to live her own destiny, despite racism or sexism or the anonymity of Black poets when she began writing. Born on July 5th, 1923, Naomi lived 97 years, spending most of her adult life in Detroit, Michigan. She became famous for her poetry, and as the founding editor of Lotus Press, she published 90 books of poetry. Her most treasured work was Adam of Ife, poems by Black women in praise of Black men. Her generosity of spirit was reflective of a generation of Black writers that emerged during the mid-20th century, who committed their lives to the evolution of African American literature. Like Dudley Randall, Naomi invested more of her energy into poetry production by other authors than she did even into her own work. But her life was a fine poem, contoured to inspire and to advance human potential through the spiritual power of the printed word. As her daughter Jill stated, "My mother was born a wordsmith. Whether she was crafting her own poetry or editing or promoting the works of others, she consistently aimed for excellence and high standards. Poetry made her who she was," unquote. Naomi published her first poem when she was only 13 years of age. Born Naomi Cordelia Long on July 5, 1923 in Norfolk, Virginia, to the Reverend Clarence M. and Maud Long, who were college educated and advocates of African American rights and progress. Her Christian upbringing was axiomatic to her life's work, serving others. After graduating from Virginia State University in 1945, she married Julian Witherspoon. They had one daughter, Jill. The marriage ended in divorce, as did her second marriage to William Madgett. However, since she had acquired an international reputation as a poet with the Madgett name, she did not change it when she married Leonard Andrews, who passed in 1996. After moving to Detroit, Naomi worked for the Bell Telephone Company and for the Michigan Chronicle. She connected with the Black literary community and Dudley Randall, the founder of Broadside Press, who published her poem Sunny in the iconic Broadside Press series. Naomi and Dudley dedicated their energy to publishing and promoting Black poetry and regarded their efforts to be in tandem with a higher calling. She acquired advanced degrees from Wayne State University and the International Institute for Advanced Studies. As an English teacher for the Detroit Public Schools, she was a pioneer in curriculum reform, introducing creative writing and African American literature. She taught briefly at Oakland University and the University of Michigan, and was a professor at Eastern Michigan University for 16 years until her retirement in 1984. Langston Hughes encouraged Naomi and read one of her poems during his readings at Virginia State University when she was an undergraduate student in 1941. She always commented on what an influence Hughes was on her writing, including reviewing them and sending her encouragement. She in turn extended this same encouragement to younger poets, working with the Inside Out Literary Project in Detroit, and by establishing the Naomi Long Madgett Poetry Prize. Naomi was the author of 11 books and received the prestigious American Book Award, the Michigan Artist Award, and the Kresge Eminent Artist Award. She received honorary doctorates from Wayne State University, the University of Chicago Loyola, and Michigan State University. She was named the Poet Laureate of the City of Detroit in 2001, succeeding her dear friend Dudley Randall, who passed in 2000. Naomi's last book, You Are My Joy and Pain, was published by Wayne State University Press in 2020. We were planning a virtual book party when Naomi made her transition. This tribute is comprised of poets reading selections of Naomi's most famous poems, as well as poems from her last book. There will also be readings of poems dedicated to Naomi.
For Mama. I always hated Mama telling me to stand up straight. A million things to say, and she'd say that. Stand up straight. Mama in the kitchen and me little learning her, she'd tell me all about the world I didn't know. And sometimes she'd stop talking and look that look, which meant that I had let my shoulders droop again. Even when she fried my hair or bought me funny-looking shoes, only standing with my shoulders back would make the new look right. Now, far from Mama's kitchen, where she never preached the words Black pride, I've learned to fortify myself when applied pressures threaten to reduce me, and I can still hear Mama telling me to stand up straight. First Man, for Carl Owens in memoriam. Sculpted from the clay of Africa, first man in all the universe, you are created in the image of a tree. Transplanted now to foreign soil, you are still wondrous in your towering vigor and amplitude, and in the shade you give. Tender birch or seasoned oak, mahogany or cedar, baobab or ebony, You are the joy of a new Eden, crested with leaves as varied as fades and dreadlocks. Your countenance, like rings of a stalwart trunk, tells the unmatched story of how you persevered and flourished in spite of bitter storms. Majestic man, enduring man of myriad visages, continue to grow strong and tall within the circle of my love. Tree of heaven, I will live. The axe's angry edge against my trunk cannot deny me. Though I thunder down to lie prostrate among exalted grasses that do not mourn me, I will rise. I will grow. Persistent roots deep burrowed in the earth avenge my fall. Tentacles will shoot out swiftly in all directions. Stubborn leaves explode their force into the sun. I will thrive. Curse of the orchard, blemish on this land's fair continents, I have grown strong for strength denied, for struggle in hostile woods. I keep alive by being the troublesome, indestructible stinkweed of truth.
Midday by Naomi Long Madgett. I've come this far to freedom and I won't turn back. I'm climbing to the highway from my old dirt track. I'm coming and I'm going and I'm stretching and I'm growing and I'll reap what I've been sowing, or my skin's not black. I've prayed and slaved and waited and I've sung my song. You've bled me and you've starved me, but I've still grown strong. You've lashed me and you've treed me and you've everything but freed me. But in time you'll know you need me, and it won't be long. I've seen the daylight breaking high above the bough. I've found my destination and I've made my vow. So whether you abhor me or deride me or ignore me, mighty mountains loom before me, and I won't stop now. Alabama Centennial, 1965. They said, wait, and I waited for 100 years. I waited in cotton fields, kitchens, balconies, in bread lines, at back doors, on chain gangs and stinking colored toilets, in crowded ghettos, outside of schools and voting booths. And some said later, and some said never. Then a new wind blew, and a new voice rode its wings with quiet urgency. Strong, determined, sure. No, it said. Not never, not later, not even soon. Now, walk. And other voices echoed the freedom words. Walk together, children, don't get weary. Whispered them, sang them, prayed them, shouted them. Walk. And I walked the streets of Montgomery until a link in the chain of patient acquiescence broke. Then again, sit down. And I sat down at the counters of Greensboro. Ride. And I rode the bus for freedom. Kneel. And I went down on my knees in prayer and faith. March. And I'll march until the last chains fall, singing, we shall overcome. Not all the dogs and hoses in Birmingham, not all the clubs and guns in Selma can turn this tide. Not all the jails can hold these young black faces from their destiny of manhood, of equality, of dignity, of the American dream, 100 years past due. Now,
I will be reading Afterthought by Naomi Long Madgett. Afterthought. I would like to believe we loved each other once, that you were my undiscovered room in a house full of mirrors and windows, and I, your paper pupperjack, snapped into small explosions from the folded air to soar you into supersonic flight. But the wind of many voices have stretched you open to such constant height that no rare single breath can lift you anymore. And to tell the truth, my house has narrowed to such stifling darkness that I no longer seek the hidden room, only a door that opens outward into a limitless expanse of light.
And I am pleased to be reading Time is No Thief by Naomi Long Madgett. Only the minutes, not the years, are ours, and yet time is no thief. Our love is not a time-encumbered thing. Minutes will go like raindrops leaking through reluctant roofs. But what is lost? Oh, say not I have loved a little while, a brief, uncertain day ruled by the clock, but then she was gone. Say not this empty thing. Though I shall go, and all the years remaining will brood that other lips, not ever ours again, must meet. Oh, do not sigh, my love, and do not be afraid. Earth is not ours, though we have touched and held the stars. The perfect golden minutes slip away, and yet time is no thief.
I will be reading Song for a Season by Naomi Long Madgett. Song for a Season. Through winter's chill, stay warm. Through blast of wind, keep steady and secure. December holds no threat this year, no harm to one protected lovingly. Endure as seeds endure beneath earth's vigilance. Some little wisp of dream is all we know perhaps of sun and green and sustenance amid the frost and snow. But this sufficiency I offer you for balm, that love and dreams are life's most tangible reality. It's time alone that seems.
Signature. Messages sing toward you along taut lines, sizzling across electric feathers of snow. Without warning, bulbs burst into brightness all along the highway. Sometimes fire engines clang with metal urgency. Do little bells tingle you silverly awake some mornings? Do flints of sunlight strike against your skin, ignite? And do you rise then with inexplicable joy and energy? I send you messages along taut wires, singing incendiary. Are you receiving them? Do you recognize their signature?
East Orange was the most prejudiced city in the North that I can think of. The school system did not have a single black employee, not even a janitor. And each of the grades had 3 divisions, A, B, and C. In the A division, there might have been 1 black student or none. In the B, there might have been 6. And all the Italians and black kids were in the C division. My older brother had already started school and he was put in 2C. And my second brother was in the B division, and I was the only black child in the A division through the 8th grade. And the prejudice that I experienced there, and throughout the city, you wouldn't believe. There was a line in one of my poems about my mother, Reluctant Light, about her tapping her umbrella on the 5th grade teacher's desk, demanding justice. There was a contest in one of the grades for reciting poetry. And my mother, we decided on the poem I was going to recite, not an original poem. And she drilled me and drilled me and drilled me to make sure that I recited with expression. And as I listened to the other kids recite, I knew I was better than they were. I didn't get 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th prize. And my teacher told my mother, everybody knows Naomi won that. And my father wanted to continue his education, so he enrolled at Uppsala College in East Orange, and he was the first black graduate. And he was pastoring a church full-time and had a wife and 3 children at home. But he was the highest-ranking student in his class. The president called him in and said, we're not going to let you make the valedictory address. And if you insist, we will never admit another Negro. So my father said he didn't care about making the speech, but he wanted recognition for his achievement. So they printed it on the program. But another student, a white student, made the address. And then when my brothers got to high school, they had a friend who spent a lot of time at our house. He was very, very talented and very personable. All the kids loved Irving Washington. And the students wanted to run him for student council. They wouldn't even let them put his name on the ticket. And when my brothers reported that the swimming classes were separate, my father and another minister went and complained, and they closed the pool, and it never opened again. Well, when my father accepted the church in St. Louis, he told me about this all-black high school I would be going to. And I had never seen so many, not all of them were middle class, but I had never seen so many middle-class black kids in my life in one place. It was the turning point of my life. The first week I was there, I enrolled right after the Christmas holidays in 1938. And the first week I was there was a National Honor Society induction ceremony. It's the most beautiful and solemn thing I had ever seen in my life. And it was absolutely quiet. The teachers didn't have to stand in the aisles to keep order. And I was just so impressed. I've got to do that. And then it might have been, I think it was the same assembly, this unassuming little 16-year-old boy got up on the stage and sang in a baritone voice like I have never heard before or since. I looked down from that balcony and I said, here is a place you can be anything you're good enough to be. And I took off running. That was a turning point of my life. A few years later, I'm in Detroit. It was in the 50s. And there was an item there, Negro makes Met. I said, that's Robert McFerrin. It had to be. And of course it was. And we stayed in touch until his death several years ago. But everything at Sumner High School, it was the first black high school west of the Mississippi. And everything was academic excellence. And it was just, if I had never gone to St. Louis, I don't know, my life would have been very different. And the black community there was so supportive of anybody who was doing anything. I did my first poetry reading over the radio when I was 15, and I was always being asked to do readings even as a teenager, and so was Robert. He would do concerts, and it just made all the difference in my life.
When did you first meet Robert Hayden?
I don't really remember when I met him. I taught at University of Michigan one semester, one class, while I was still teaching at EMU. And I saw him one time. His office was next to the office I had borrowed. But it was just wonderful knowing that he was there. But Dudley and Bob Hayden and I did a joint reading at a community college, Oakland Community College. So when we left there, Dudley was driving him back to Ann Arbor, and I went along for the ride and sat in the back seat with him, and we talked about, the forces that tried to make all black writers write the same way, or the responsibility of the writers to fight the poets to fight the battle. And we both felt that nobody has the right to tell a poet what to write about.
Which poem is your favorite?
Well, one of my favorites is a poem I wrote when I was about 19 years old. So many of my early poems were melancholy. And in this poem, I'm expressing the fact that sooner or later, I'm going to write a happy poem. And this is a poem, Quest. I will track you down the years, down the night, till my anguish falls away star by star, and my heart spreads flaming wings where you are. I will find you, never fear, make you mine. Think that you have bound me fast to the earth. I will rise to sing you yet, song of mirth. I will let you think you won, perfect dream, till I creep from dark and toil to your side, hold you to my heart and sleep, satisfied. I will track you down the sky, down the blue, till my song becomes the sun of the years, and the golden April rains are my tears.
And so in 1984, in graduate school, I asked my professor why I had never read an African-American poet at NYU. And he said, we don't go down that low. So, okay, he said it, but don't you think other people might have been thinking it? And so, so just imagine that effect on the heart of a black poet, on children coming up, to have that desire or that sense, and then to know you're not present in the world. There's some reason why there's nothing to mirror that back for you. And there was another difficulty too. At a certain point in the evolution of us as African American writers, there was a moment in which you had to choose. Are you a poet or are you a black poet? And I think of Lotus Press certainly as a continuation of the Harlem Renaissance, along with Dudley Randall at Broadside and Gwendolyn Brooks and Robert Hayden. I think that this was the bridge that we needed. This was the burgeoning and precious seed without which you would not see Inside Out, you would not see Cave Canem. These things could not have happened without this woman who taught us how to love. Thank you for your contributions to American poetry, to African American writers, to American culture and American literature itself. I pray for your continued health, strength, and beauty, and we have an award. It's a beautiful award. The first annual Inside Out Literacy Legacy Award, Naomi Long Madgett, October 28th, 2010, Star by Star, My Heart Spreads Flaming Wings.
City Nights by Naomi Long Madgett. My windows and doors are barred against the intrusion of thieves. The neighbors' dogs howl in pain at the screech of sirens. There is nothing you can tell me about the city I do not know. On the front porch, it is cool and quiet after the high-pitched panic passes. The windows across the street gleam in the dark. There is a faint suggestion of moon shadow above the golden streetlight. The children are upstairs sleeping, and we are happy for their presence. The conversation comes around to Grandpa Henry, thrown into the Detroit River by an Indian woman, seeking to save him from the sinking ship. Or was he the one who was the African prince, employed to oversee the chained slave cargo, preventing their rebellion and for reward set free? The family will never settle it. Somebody lost the history they had so carefully preserved. Insurance rates are soaring. It is not safe to walk the streets at night. The news reports keep telling us the things they need to say. The case is hopeless. But the front porch is cool and quiet. The neighbors are dark and warm. The grandchildren are upstairs dreaming. And we are happy for their presence.
When we look at the work that Naomi Long Madgett has produced over the years, it is a significant body of work. And one has to, I think, pay very close attention to what it is she's asking us to perceive and to understand. But it is a major mind at work.
I'm very pleased with the fact that I have published some very, very good poets. Somebody else might have done it, but the fact is that I did. And whether they're great sales or not, these books are on the bookshelves of the world.
This is really what she was meant to do. This was her calling. It was going to find her at some point and pull her along.
She's published tremendous writers, she's done a heck of a lot, and she's pretty much done it single-handedly.
When I look back and see what my life has meant, what I'm living for, what is important to me, what I'd like to be remembered for. And it is to be of service, to be a good role model, so that I can lead people in the right direction and not the wrong direction. But it is to serve and to make a difference in the world, a positive difference in the world, to leave behind something that is good.
Without Condition by Naomi Long Madgett. All these years I have loved you without condition of return, laid my sacrifice at the altar of your need. Spring never spiraled through reluctant soil without my touch, or summer surged through sun and azure wind without my presence at your rebirth. I have wished you cardinals and lemonade, lake water stroking your hand, sunrise and songs my frail voice could not sing, but only say. When the first green leaf turned to scarlet or gold, I have been there always. When winter blanketed dead leaves and snow, I have been there. So what if now another voice sustains you? Another hand teaches you what love means. It's all right. It really is all right, because I have loved you all these years without condition of return.
Pack rat. My trouble is I always try to save everything. Old clocks and calendars, expired words buried in open graves. But hoarded grains of sand keep shifting as rivers redefine boundaries and seasons. Lengths of old string rolled into neat balls neither measure nor bind, nor do shelves laden with rancid sweets preserve what ants continually nibble away. Love should be eaten while it is ripe, and then the pits discarded. Lord, give me at last one cracked bowl, holding absolutely nothing.
A Poet's Poet, for Naomi Long Madgett. Sun streams between autumn leaves like glittering lights on a Christmas tree, when a crescent moon peers between gathering clouds, as we call your name in funeral refrain, trying to touch your spirituality, transcending this dying place, spinning inside gravity. Warm November comforts our grief as we retrieve poetry paths, melding words into art in the quiet cavern beneath your Tudor cottage in Detroit's underground, where books emerge star by star, lifting language above dim city nights. Go greet your muse, convene with Randall, Brooks, Hayden, and Clifton. Meet Dunbar, Harper, Wheatley, and commune with Langston Hughes. Anonymous authors of the spirituals, enjoying your light, ringing in heavenly Sundays, anticipating the blues knocking at the door every mournful Monday. As hallelujah choruses resound and your poetry merges with eternal echoes of love songs still breathing inside our earthbound souls.
I'm reading Somewhere in the City by my hero poet Naomi Long Madgett. You are somewhere in the city, lost to me and sharing buildings, skyline, traffic signals, street names, rush hours, and street scenes, sharing unconsciously things we do not share by purpose anymore. And though we do not meet, though our feet do not strike the same pavement at the same time, you are mine as the city is mine. You and the city are one. The city cannot enclose me in its foggy arms without your arms too, holding me in a loose embrace. Somewhere in the city you are driving someone somewhere, or telephoning, or taking a bath, or making love, or watching a movie, or working or polishing the metal on the car you are so proud of, or getting sleepy over wine, or telling jokes and playing a jukebox in a bar. How many times have I barely missed you? By one block, or one door, or one-way street. Somewhere you are forgetting me and making of me nothing, no more than the song you listen to or the jokes you tell. My eyes will be impassable as fog. If we should ever meet again, as bright as streetlights, as shallow as rain, as hard as steel, the soft soul eyes you knew will be for you the barren city. The city without love or hope or mercy or desire, without remembrance, without nostalgia, without soul. And you will not realize or understand how often I caress you when the downtown lights blink on and the traffic signals change from red to green.
I live with the hope that after I'm gone, someone will take my poetry seriously. But right now, when you see an anthology, they put the names of the most famous poets, and I'm always among the and others. So, you know, sometimes I don't have a lot of confidence in my ability as a poet. And yet, you know, I'm satisfied reading some of my poems and sometimes amazed that some of the poems in my own thinking are as good as they are. There was one rhymed poem. I thought I had it here, I'm not sure. This is a poem called Postscript. And, you know, I said, I wonder how I had sense enough to do anything with this rhyme. Still let me find your guarded eyes as deep with longing as before, your hand as warm, though lips and thighs consent no more. Though passion was our only prize, our only region to explore, what pain it is to realize you meant no more. Recite again those easy lies of dreams that night seemed fated for, then leave me to my secret sighs, content no more. It's a quite intricate rhyme pattern. But when you do rhyme, the rhyme has to seem as if that was the only way to say it. It can't be something that changes what you wanted to say. And, you know, this consent no more, you meant no more, content no more, those were the right words, and yet they rhymed. I don't dwell on it, but I think everybody should prepare for death. People don't, they say, oh, that's so, I don't want to talk about dying. But everybody should prepare for death and for final illness. You know, it's a practical thing to do. People wait until it's too late, and then their wishes are not carried out. And I think people should make plans to, you know, to go into a final illness. It's a practical thing to do. I would not like to be in a lot of pain, but I don't have that choice. At the same time, I don't want to go suddenly. I want to know that I'm going to die, so I'll have at least a few days to get whatever loose ends tied up that aren't already tied up. But I hate the idea of I don't know if there's an afterlife or not. And I'm not sure I believe in reincarnation, but if there is in reincarnation, I think I am Octavia reincarnated. She died 3 years before I was born, and I looked like her, and I have, from what I understand, learned about her, a lot of her disposition. But I don't like the idea of annihilation. But then I won't know anything about it, so why worry about it? But you don't know what eternity is like. I'm not sure that I believe that we meet deceased members of our family as we knew them on earth. But I think there is combining of spirits of some kind. Now, when my second brother died, I wrote a poem about him, and I thought of him as forever flying the P-51 that he flew in World War II. And I kept looking at the clouds. And I think there's a poem here that I wrote at that time. When a Tuskegee airman dies, he's referred to as a lonely eagle. So the title of this poem is Lonely Eagle. My brother is up there somewhere, tunneling through a cloud, once again a red-tail piloting his World War II P-51. After his plane was shot down over Hungary, gashing his nose when he crash-landed, after the run from enemy pursuit, blood streaming down his face, after Stalag Luft 3 in Germany and forced marches to other prison camps, after liberation, leaner, lice-infested, wearing the same clothes he was captured in, after his safe return to family and home, after piloting his cabin cruiser on Long Island Sound, substitute for the plane he couldn't afford, his wartime flight was what defined him all his years. Driving alone through rush hour traffic now, I search the blue to catch the shadow of the wings I know are there emerging. Too far below to hear his engine, I feel his spirit following me along the mundane freeway, I, earthbound and lonelier than the eagle he has become. So I pictured him doing the thing that he liked best forever and never tiring of it. I feel very humble because if I had not been given the talent that I have by God, and if I had not been encouraged by my parents and other people, such as Langston Hughes in County Cullen, and Sterling Brown, I didn't do this by myself. I didn't give myself the talent. And so I have to use it, and I have to pass on to other poets the encouragement that I received. Langston Hughes was such a wonderful human being, and he was always so encouraging to younger poets, and so was Gwen Brooks. And that's the kind of, I don't want to be full of myself. I want to, by establishing Lotus Press, I felt that publishing other poets was more important than the work as one poet. And I have been given so much that I have to give back. I owe.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's Carr Center Presents, The Legacy of Naomi Long Madgett. Please come back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for the next Carr Center Presents. We will kick off a truly outstanding concert series, Duos and Duets, curated by our artistic director and 3-time Grammy Award winner, Terry Lynn Carrington. Part 1 of Duos and Duets will feature Terry Lynn herself, paired with the incomparable Panamanian pianist Nilo Perez. See you then.